Hey, this is Shaun with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by GoTennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And if you're a fan of Bull Shark Sports, you can go to shop.letsgotennis.com and get yourself a hoodie or a hat. And while you're there, check out the Atlanta Tennis Monsters collection just in time for Halloween. Today, this is Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. Today's talk, we offer a volunteer coach starter guide. Ben, you ready to talk some youth sports?
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun one, I hope. Now let's dive in.
All right. Today, Coach Ben offers a volunteer coach starter guide. Now, do I need to get the language right? It is a starter guide for volunteer coaches. Ben, how do you want to get started?
Yeah, let's start with like a quick story, right? So I'm reading this article yesterday, as a matter of fact, and the article, I'll try to sum it up quickly. Like, talk about this girl. She goes out to her soccer practice. The first soccer practice is run by one of the league organizers because no coach volunteered for this particular soccer team. And so, hey, this organizer says, hey, if any of your parents would like to help coach, please let them know to let us know. And this girl says, well, my mom will coach, and she loves soccer or whatever. And so goes home. Mom says, got an email. Hey, Susan said you were willing to coach the soccer team. Thank you so much. And she's like, oh, crap. You know? So if something like that's ever happened to you as a parent or listeners, or you volunteer, you actually want to be active on the field or on the court and help your kid and coach their team or their sport, today is about you and about where do you go to first. And I have some advice because I know, and we had a few episodes ago about the YouTube parent. And with social media nowadays, there's so much content out there, and what often happens is the parent quickly goes to YouTube, how to coach soccer, or maybe buys the book Soccer for Dummies or something like that, or goes to TikTok or the Facebook or Instagram Reels and tries to find videos of how to coach whatever it is. And so I want to help by showing parents or any newbie coach really kind of where to go to first.
I like it. Okay. So we've got some advice there's a volunteer coach, but there's also maybe you say a newbie coach. Could be the same thing, could be volunteer, could be someone looking to get into coaching. Can I derail a little bit and ask the question, which sports have volunteer coaches? Because I see that in soccer, I see that in baseball a little bit, but soccer sometimes is all volunteer. But then baseball, you seem to have at least one guy like you who knows what he's doing. And then there's a parent like me that says, sure, I'll help. Now, do we have the same thing in tennis? Or is that just a scenario where nobody wants to see a parent out there tossing balls to kids helping out?
I wish we did. I wish we did, honestly.
I'm sorry for the tangent.
I know a lot of tennis pros are probably, cringing now because they're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose income because a parent decides to coach. But I wish we did. I've often said before, I wish tennis, especially team tennis like Alta and USGA team tennis, I wish it was more like youth soccer, youth baseball. A lot of things I'll say this first because I mean, I had somebody years ago in Gainesville, Georgia, who I used to work with a lot. I was doing a lot of what was called then Quick Start. I was giving a lot of trainings and seminar, not webinars there in person, but seminars on Quick Start and all that stuff. And she was a mom who got into it and coached teams, and so she created a bunch of teams. So I know there's a lot of parents in tennis that get involved from a team captain standpoint, but not necessarily being on the court coaching. And I wish that would happen more. I think we could really grow the sport if we had people that were able to do that.
I think it would help if someone like you or me is the main coach. Could we then run 3 or 4 courts of kids and matches with having a parent out there helping keep score or even tossing balls here and there? I think there's a lot we can do, but that was just a tangent on that. Maybe we can work on getting.
Oh, you're right. That's similar, like you mentioned, to my experience with baseball. There is one parent who knows a lot about the sport and they're super into it, and then they sort of solicit helpers. most of the time in my experience with baseball is the person that volunteers to be the coach or the manager, we call it in baseball, but you're really the head coach. Always, I never like that term manager. I like the term head coach much better because that's what I like to do. And so what happens is you have somebody who's super knowledgeable about the sport itself, but how do you take that knowledge and apply it to the young kids that you're coaching? And the very first thing you've got to realize in coaching new sports is you're coaching kids. You're not coaching small adults. And so some of the most important things of the sport, you got to realize, are they even able to digest all that information? And so how do you take a sport that can be complicated and make it super simple and palatable for a young mind and a young athlete, what they actually can do?
And I think that's great advice from, in my mind, what's obviously good advice, because even in industries of coaching, we have specialties. I happen to be really good with kids. Doesn't mean I can't work with adults, but this happens to be a specialty. If you work with adults all the time and you've got that one kid lesson because you said yes or you want the money or whatever it is, it's a different thing. You can't treat them like an adult. You have to understand that teaching third grade is different than teaching philosophy, to seniors in college. So there's a different scenario there. So number one is you're coaching kids, not small adults, is a good realization. What's next?
Yeah, and I got a good piece of feedback from a friend of mine who said to me once, most coaches will coach at the last level that they played, regardless of what
Mm.
the ages they coach. So if you're a baseball coach and you played high school baseball, and that's the last level you remember playing and being coached at, and then you go to coach a bunch of 6 and 7 year old kids, then you can't take that. That's not going to work. And I've heard a lot of kids say, or a lot of parents say to me, well, this guy would be a really good high school baseball coach, but
Mm.
not a 7 and 8 year old coach pitch coach. So my advice is you're going to get into coaching, whether you're a parent volunteer or, like we mentioned, a newbie coach, maybe someone who is going to pursue this as a profession, or at least making some money at this, giving lessons and coaching teams and the like. The first piece of advice is go to your governing body of whatever sport you want to play. So literally you can go to Google and you can search USA, then whatever sport you're playing. So if it's soccer, USA soccer, search that. If it's baseball, USA baseball. Now, tennis is a little different. You Google USA tennis, there's not an organization called USA Tennis. There is a USTA, which is the United States Tennis Association. And oddly, the first thing that comes up on you if you search, at least for me, when I searched USA Tennis, was talking about tournaments. And then the next thing was the US Open. So we dived directly into the formal competition. But if you go to USTA.com, you will find, search through there quickly. And just like any of these USA sports sites, you'll quickly find some sort of coaching resource section. And a lot of these governing bodies, because these governing bodies are run by the US Olympic Committee, a lot of these governing bodies will have coaching courses, online courses you can take. Some even have certifications you can get that are really, really valuable. And they don't not only give you a foundation of the sport itself, but how to apply that to kids. I For me, I did the USA baseball certification years ago. I did A through C, and oddly, soccer is very similar. So the higher the letter, commonly that's the more advanced. So in baseball, if you say I'm C certified, that's a higher level than A certification. A certification, like the base. In tennis, we have levels, quite opposite. So level 1 is the base, and then level 5 is the top. So a little bit different than that. So, but the great thing I found with USA Baseball is that a lot of these resources, they were online, so I didn't have to leave my house and go to a 2-day workshop or whatever. They were online courses and they were free. So because the US Olympic Committee is trying to put out more of these coaching resources and really grow things from the grassroots level, they'll have these they'll have these courses for free, which is great.
That is great. And I did a quick Google search just now live, and USA Tennis, you're right, went professional pretty quickly. But if I typed in USA Tennis for Children, because that's often the beginning point, USA Tennis for Children, the first thing you get is USTA Youth Tennis are the first
Oh, that's
two,
great.
which is a direction to go.
Yeah, perfect. So you've got your USA, your governing, we call it your national governing body. You've got your national governing body coaching resources for youth. So that's one important resource. The next one I would suggest is a website that's literally called howtocoachkids.org.
There you go.
And it's got
What does
great
it talk about?
well, yeah, what else is there to talk about, right? So go howtocoachkids.org. So howtocoachkids.org, there's courses on there. There's a course on how to coach kids, and there's another course on specifically how to coach girls. It's a great course. So How to Coach Kids was developed by the U.S. Olympic Committee with the help of Nike. I'm sure Nike put bukus of money into this, but what it really does is it gives, what I like about it is it helps you, the courses really help you as a coach to understand and be able to keep kids engaged in your practices. It shows you age and stage appropriate things to work on with kids. And for me, what I like most about it when I went through the How to Coach Kids courses is it does it in layman's terms, if you will. So it's
Nice.
really easy to understand. It's not a bunch of sports science lingo that you've got to search every other word to see what it means. So it's super easy to follow and understand. That's another great resource. So the two steps I would say, go to your governing body, USA, whatever your sport is, then go do the How to Coach Kids courses. And from there, the coach, you're going to have a great understanding of both the physical skills that kids need by age, a good understanding of the sport specific skill they need by age, but most importantly, I think it's going through that coursework of your governing body and then how to coach kids is going to steer the coach in a more of a direction of development and less likelihood of focusing on winning the league championship.
A reminder of what's important. Like, why are we really here? Are
Exactly.
we here to win, or are we here for the kids just to have fun? And it's probably somewhere in between the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that competition is a part of development. You should have competition. You should play games. You should try to win those games. Okay. That being said, that doesn't mean that you play your best players in the primo spots the entire game, right? You want to give everybody an opportunity to contribute and everybody an opportunity to develop, especially at the younger ages. Okay. But um, that doesn't mean that we're necessarily interested in a win at all costs, let's win the league championship, which often we can get tied up in as adults. And you and I've talked about this, that we're adults sitting up in the booth, so to speak, and we're moving the kids around like chess pieces and playing our game. These are children, they're developing, their minds are developing, their bodies are developing, and we need to help them to grow in the best and in most positive way. Competition helps, a lot of benefits competition, but also make sure that we're focused on not the win and loss column, but we're focused on making sure every kid is getting better every time they come out and simply enjoying the sport that they're playing.
Yeah,
So
if they don't enjoy it, they're not coming back. And that's the main thing that we realize, especially the younger the kids. If they're not having fun, they're not coming back. It doesn't matter if they're really good at it. And it doesn't matter if the parents really want them to do it. They're going to find a way to not do it anymore.
yeah.
It's got to be fun. It's got to be enjoyable, because that's why kids go play sport, is to have fun. It's playing a game. It's the reason adults go out and go play sport, is to have fun. But if you're just worried about winning, you need to find a specific team for that, I'm sure.
Well, you're probably not going to be in it very long, long
Because
term, right?
you can't
But
always win.
I mean, I'm reminded of something one of our league directors sent out when I was coaching a youth baseball team, and right before the playoffs. So most of these youth sports, you have a regular season, you have the playoffs at the end, and then there is a league championship. And so he reminded us, he said, hey, you're not successful this year if you win the league championship. You're successful if all 12 kids on your team sign up for next season.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, because it also isn't just did everybody have fun? It's not that simple as well. It's if they come back for more. The customer retention as a coach isn't always just about money for the organization or for the coach themselves. It's about them coming back. It's about them wanting to continue because they're getting something good out of it.
And I think too, the organizations as a whole need to do a better job of setting up guidelines or maybe mandates. Americans hate to hear the term mandates and make us do something as a free country, but stuff that's going to help them be better coaches. I remember when I did I9 Sports, it's a great organization for novice and beginner level players in whatever sport that they offer. But I9 is a great organization, and they do make you do the I9 course. I think that you have to do the How to Coach Kids. At least you had to. That's how I was first introduced to it, is doing the How to Coach Kids courses. And I9 has courses that you have to take. And then, of course, there's a background check, which you have to do. But they have a good system, a good process in place for helping these are all volunteer coaches, helping their coaches be better educated. And I think a lot of youth sports programs should do that if they're not already, is find ways to give coaches these educational tips, give coaches these educational resources, and make them do it, quite frankly. Because a lot of times we're just so stressed and trying to get the league going. We got all these kids that want to play, and it's great. We need all these volunteers, but we need to make sure we're doing it the right way. And we need to make sure that we're continuing to focus and making it about the kids and not necessarily about the coach's ego or just trying to get through the season, right? We need to make this a positive experience for kids. So while for a lot of these volunteers, it's not their full-time job, my advice is to invest as much as you can in how to coach kids. And you can go to YouTube and you can find a great drill or a game or whatever to play with your kids. And there's lots of resources to do that. But start with those governing bodies, how to coach kids. Go to your youth sports organization. Sometimes the leagues will have information like coaching resources section on there. Now, sometimes those have to deal with more like what I would call like managing the day, right? Like which dugout is the home teams and who's in charge of running the scoreboard and who's in charge of raking the field and what do you do if it rains and those sort more like rules, if you will, versus like how to coach the team on the field. But those resources could be valuable. But just remember that it is volunteerism, but volunteerism is not an excuse for a lack of professionalism. And I know it's not
That one.
your
That one.
job.
There's our show title today. Volunteerism is not an excuse. Just because you're a volunteer is not an excuse for a lack of professionalism. It reminds me of a Rod Ray quote, tennis coach at Wofford College. He says, "Just because you're an adult doesn't mean you can be mediocre, or doesn't mean you should be mediocre." I'm like, yeah, we do. We kind of settle into being an adult. We're like, that's fine. We want the best. We want our kids to be great, but we're okay being mediocre. But I like that idea. Let's keep it professional, even if you're volunteering. And so did we answer the question? You got to remember you're not coaching little adults. These are children. Their brains are different. Their emotions are different. It's a unique thing. And if you don't know that you're already good at it, put some time into it, right? You've got Google your governing body, USA Tennis for Children in a tennis point of view, USA Baseball for kids. Maybe you can specify for kids if you're looking for that. With some resources, howtocoachkids.org. I found it. It looks like it's got some good information there. Did we answer the question, Ben?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope parents and volunteers, coaches, even you're currently coaching, go to those resources, look at those. Governing bodies spend a lot of time putting in processes that are going to help us from the grassroots level develop these kids.
And some people do it. Some organizations do it better than others, but a lot of it is there and a lot of it is findable, even if it's YouTube. Get some information, but then also go ask somebody who already knows. check with somebody like Ben, somebody like me. Go find the actual head coach, the person who knows what's going on and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. What do you think?" Rather than just getting random information from TikTok, which I personally do not suggest. But Ben, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much. This has been Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hesley. We'll see you next week. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.